Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Incredible India podcast series. I'm Sam.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm joined by the person who can somehow synthesize a 4,000-year timeline into a single, compelling narrative.
It's great to be here, and you've set the stage perfectly because today we are going deep into an archaeological discovery that has genuinely challenged history, or at least it's challenging the history books we all grew up with.
We are diving into the mystery of Sanauli. It's a small village in Uttar Pradesh. And back in 2018, an excavation there unearthed, well, not just artifacts.
No, not at all. They found these beautifully preserved, high-status burial sites.
And inside them, wheeled vehicles dating back around 4,000 years.
And this is, a huge deal, because for decades, the prevailing academic theory was that sophisticated wheeled technology, specifically the war chariot, it arrived in the Indian subcontinent much, much later.
Like brought in from somewhere else, right?
Exactly. The idea was it was brought in by migrations around 1500 BCE, maybe even later. So if these Sanauli vehicles dated between 2000 and 1800 BCE, if they're actually early forms of the chariot,
then we have to completely reassess the timeline.
we have to fundamentally reassess indigenous technological development in ancient India.
So that's our mission for you today. We need to unpack what the Archaeological Survey of India, the ASI, actually found.
We'll compare these vehicles to what was happening globally back then. Think Mesopotamia and Egypt in the Bronze Age.
And then we'll get into the intense and sometimes political debate over what these things actually are. Are they true war machines, or are they just extremely elaborate ceremonial carts?
Let's start at the beginning. The location itself is key. We are talking about Sanauli village in the Bagpat district.
Which is where, roughly?
It's about 68 kilometers northeast of modern-day Delhi, so it's right in the heartland of what would later become ancient Indian civilization.
And this excavation, led by S.K. Menjul and the ASI team, this wasn't just a small dig, was it?
Not at all. They uncovered this remarkable burial complex. What's fascinating is the sheer sophistication of it all. They found multiple pits.
How many?
8, to be exact. And inside were human remains, high-status weaponry, and crucially, the exceptionally well-preserved remnants of 3 distinct wheeled vehicles.
How did they survive so well? Wood usually just rots away.
The local soil composition, it really helped preserve the organic material in a way we just rarely see in that climate.
That preservation must have been crucial, because that's what allows you to date it, right? And that 4,000-year date is the whole point of contention.
It is. And they approached this with some pretty robust scientific rigor. They weren't just relying on one method.
Okay, so how did they do it?
To date the organic stuff, like charcoal and bone fragments, they used radiocarbon dating, specifically accelerator mass spectrometry, AMS.
Which is the gold standard, isn't it?
It's a gold standard for dating tiny amounts of organic matter with incredible precision.
And what did that clock say?
That clock consistently pointed to the late Harappan period, specifically around 2000 to 1800 BCE.
So they have one clock, but you said they used more?
They did. To confirm it, they ran a second clock, thermoluminescence dating on the fired clay pottery shards found in the graves.
And that gave them an independent reading.
A completely independent reading, and it aligned perfectly.
So 2 independent lines of evidence, both placing these finds squarely in the Bronze Age. We're talking contemporaneous with the Great Pyramids, the city-states of Mesopotamia.
It's a huge claim. And the physical evidence of the vehicles themselves, well, that just increases the wonder. These weren't simple ox carts.
Let's talk about the craftsmanship then. What stood out to the archaeologists?
First, the size. The solid wooden wheels were about 1.2 meters in diameter, but the construction was meticulous. These solid wheels were covered, or sort of protected, with decorative copper sheeting.
Copper sheeting, that just screams status and wealth, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yep.
But I know you noticed something in the initial analysis that sounds, well, impossible for that date.
The iron weapons. They found daggers, spearheads, arrowheads, and they were listed as iron. Wait a minute. Iron, isn't that supposed to show up centuries later?
That is an excellent point, and it's where the discovery caused genuine shock. It's a chronological anomaly that archaeologists are still grappling with.
So what's the theory?
There are a couple of possibilities. Either this is an extremely rare, localized, very early use of iron, much earlier than we thought, or, and this is probably more likely in early field reports, the material was misidentified. Maybe it's a high-grade meteoritic iron or just an unusual copper alloy.
Okay, so the metal is still a question mark, but the organic dating holds strong.
Exactly. And looking at the other artifacts, the individuals buried were clearly warrior elites. Gold and silver ornaments, beaded jewelry, elaborate headdresses.
The whole package.
They were buried with their most prized possessions. And get this, the wear patterns on the wheels and axles suggest these vehicles were used. They traveled. They weren't just made for the funeral.
Which brings us right to the core of the debate. Are they carts or are they chariots? The technical definition is what really matters here, isn't it?
It is. If we look globally, a true chariot designed for war usually needs three things. First, a lightweight platform.
For a rider and a fighter.
Right. Second, spoked wheels, not solid ones. Spokes mean speed and maneuverability that cut down the weight. And third, a really robust axle system that can handle high-speed impacts.
So, if the Sanauli vehicles have solid wooden wheels, how on earth can they be called chariots? They sound more like, I don't know, highly decorated farm trucks than Formula One racers.
That's a good analogy, and that's precisely what the initial skeptics said.
Ma.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture of global Bronze Age innovation, the solid wheel was the starting point for almost everyone. In Mesopotamia, for example, chariots from sites like they had solid wheels.
Okay.
And they typically appeared 300 to 500 years after the estimated date of these Indian examples.
Wow, a half-millennium gap. So Sanauli is actually ahead of its solid-wheeled counterparts in West Asia.
It forces us to acknowledge indigenous innovation. The design path in India seems to parallel, but also predate key developments elsewhere.
What about Egypt? They're famous for their chariots.
Right. But their New Kingdom chariots, the really fast ones, they perfected the lightweight, spoked wheel design much later. The Sanauli construction seems to be a kind of technological bridge. It uses the robust, solid construction of early Mesopotamia, but it has engineering refinements we didn't see mature in Egypt for centuries.
And what makes them uniquely Indian in terms of materials?
The copper. They use solid copper for decorative elements and for reinforcing the structure, not the more common bronze or gold inlays you see elsewhere. It suggests a very distinctive regional style, based on what they had and what they were good at working with.
Even with the solid wheels, did they find any hints of where the engineering was headed? Like, were they on the path to spokes?
Yes, the specific hub and what they could reconstruct of the spoke patterns. It suggests an independent innovation process. These aren't just copies of something from somewhere else.
So this brings us back to the central disagreement. The dating is solid, the sophistication is clear. So why is this still such a heated argument?
Well, the chariot theory, pushed by the lead excavator S.K. Manjul, points to the advanced copper work, the weaponry. It all fits a high-status warrior group. And importantly, they draw a strong link between these finds and the descriptions of horse-drawn chariots, or rathas, in the ancient Vedic texts.
So they're using textual evidence to support the archaeology.
Precisely. And prominent Indologists like B.B. Lal strongly support that link.
Okay, so what's the other side? The ceremonial cart theory.
Critics, like Dr. Shireen Rabnegar, they argue that the decorative emphasis in the construction, even with the copper, would make them kind of impractical for sustained high-speed combat.
And I read that the way they were buried also supports that idea.
It does. A major piece of evidence for the ceremonial view is that the vehicles seem to have been deliberately dismantled before being put in the grave.
Taken apart.
Right. Which supports a ritualistic interpretation. You know, the vehicle is symbolically interred, not just hastily buried with its owner after a battle.
But the single biggest issue, the elephant in the room, or I guess the horse in the grave, is the horse, right?
Absolutely. This is the crucial missing link. The design screams horse traction. But the critics point to the lack of clear, unambiguous skeletal remains of horses right there at the site.
If it's a functional chariot, where are the horses?
That's the question. Now, supporters argue that the bones might have just decomposed or the horses were buried separately. They might point to some microfaunal evidence or maybe specific teeth found nearby that could indicate horses.
So it's conflicting, a strong functional design versus weak skeletal proof.
And that's what keeps the debate alive and so intense.
But cart or chariot, that 4,000-year-old dating, the implications are just huge.
They are. It fundamentally changes our understanding of how technology moved around the ancient world. If wheeled tech this sophisticated arose independently in the subcontinent, it challenges that old narrative of technology flowing only from west to east.
It would add, what, 500 years to the timeline of advanced engineering in India?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
It forces us to rethink the pace and sophistication of the indigenous Harappan civilization.
Luckily, we're not just stuck arguing over bits of wood anymore. Modern tech can help solve these ancient mysteries.
That's the beauty of modern archaeology. For the soil layers, they use something called optical stimulated luminescence, or OSL dating,
How does that work?
where radiocarbon dates organic material. OSL tells you the last time certain grains of soil saw sunlight. It gives you a kind of environmental cross-check for the burial.
And for the metalworking, they could analyze it without destroying anything?
Exactly. They use non-destructive tools like mass spectrometry and X-ray fluorescence to let them analyze the metal composition of the copper sheeting without damaging it.
And what did that show?
It showed that these ancient craftspeople were using sophisticated and standardized alloying techniques. This was high-level material science for the time.
The real game changer for me, though, is the digital archaeology, the ability to rebuild it virtually.
It's the ultimate functional test. They used high-res 3D scanning and photogrammetry to preserve the exact spatial context of every single fitting. Then they could take those digital models and use software to hypothesize what the missing wooden parts look like.
And they could see if it actually worked as a vehicle.
They could. The software let them test the mechanics, simulate load distribution, analyze stress points. They found that the axle angle and the hub construction were brilliantly engineered to stop the wheel from shearing off on rush ground. It confirms that even this solid-wheeled version was built with an advanced understanding of mechanics.
So when you put all this evidence together, what does it mean for the big picture of Harappan history? We usually think of the Indus Valley civilization as, peaceful traders.
Sanauli completely changes that image. Whether the vehicles were for war or for ritual, their presence, along with all that weaponry, forces us to see the Harappan social structure differently.
It suggests a much more stratified society.
With a powerful warrior or elite class who controlled and displayed this incredible engineering capability.
It also confirms they weren't isolated, right? You don't develop technology this complex in a vacuum.
Not at all. The similarities with vehicles in Mesopotamia and Central Asia point to active communication channels. Ideas and manufacturing techniques were clearly flowing across vast distances. The Harappan civilization was a powerful, sophisticated player in that global Bronze Age exchange.
The Sanauli discovery is just a fantastic reminder that sophisticated technological achievements, things we once dismissed as later imports, might just be hidden in plain sight, waiting for the tools of digital archaeology to confirm their presence and completely rewrite the history books.
We've only just begun to scratch the surface of ancient India's technological genius. Indeed, if you decide to travel to India, we have a recommendation. Five Senses Tours organizes tours across India, which are immersive cultural experiences. You can email contact@fivesensestours.com. Note 5 is written as a numeral in contact@fivesensestours.com or WhatsApp to +919-845-677-446.